Okay, welcome to the Town Board Workshop and Public Hearing Thursday, April 5th. Please rise and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Exits are to my right and back of the town clerk, and also the door you came in. Roll, please.
Councilwoman Samoji? Here. Councilman Morris?
Here.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Here.
And Supervisor Prodi?
Here. Okay, make a motion to open the public hearing on the local law to change grievance day.
A second.
Councilwoman Samoji?
Yes. Yes. Oh, God.
Roll call. Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi? We're just opening
Yes.
the public hearing, so you're right on time.
Okay, is there any public comment on the public hearing
Get your secret.
to change the grievance day? Okay, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Prodi? Morris. Any opposed?
No.
Public hearing.
Is,
I don't see him here yet, so.
okay, we
keep
can
going.
just move on, and then we'll go back to, is there any public comment? No? Okay, supervisors report. Wassaic Trail to the Train update. At this point, there's not enough time to coordinate the tree cleaning work prior to the end of the month. So Dan Breyer will get in touch with USFWS to see what we can do to authorize tree clearings outside of the November to March window. The tree removal work will be added back into the construction contract. The forest account entry permit has been issued to the town of Amenia, and when a contractor has been selected, they can provide the necessary insurances and be added to the permit. Working with WSP to complete the right-of-way documentation with the landowner. Town of Amenia Highway Garage update. DEC must file a declaration of abandonment with OGS. DEC's declaration must contain a determination that lands are no longer necessary or useful to DEC. OGS approves DEC's declaration, files and publishes notice of the approval. Upon OGS approval of DEC's declaration, the property is rendered unappropriated state land. At that point, Amenia must conduct a seeker review, adopt a resolution that makes a formal request to OGS for the unappropriated state land, setting forth in detail the parcel to be conveyed, and attach a survey and certifying that the lands are useful for highway purposes. Note that highway purposes are not defined. The resolution should detail how the lot will be improved and maintained as a highway garage, and then pay $1 to OGS. Old Amenia landfill update. We're still waiting for the certified copy from the Dutchess County Clerk's recording that the environmental easement has been filed. Environmental attorney Kimberly Ray has requested a certification of completion from New York State DEC and that the site is delisted from the state Superfund registry. The addendum to the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Sharon will be sent to the town of Sharon for approval on April 13th and then sent to the town of Amenia Town Board for review. Town clerk report.
Good evening. The monthly share has been remitted to the supervisor in the amount of $1,564.20. The tax collection process is moving along. We are at approximately 89% paid, or equaling $4,287,172.81. We have a remaining 144 parcels left, or $542,036.45. Tonight I present to the board the resignation from Tara Mori. She is resigning her position as water clerk for the town of Amenia as of April 30th due to a new job that she has begun.
I'll make a motion that we accept with great reluctance the resignation of Tara Mori, who's done a great job with doing our quarterly billing.
Second.
Alrighty. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Make a motion to authorize the town clerk to advertise for the water clerk position.
Second.
It's either one or none. Michelle,
Yes.
I was just going to use you.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm also informing, I know we received an email earlier this week from Christine Ford, just informing the town board that she will be done this year for a Farm League program. I know this information also has recreation members CC'd on it. I don't believe they're having a meeting this month, so I just bring it to the board's awareness, so that way you're not surprised next month.
Well, she's finishing out this season.
She's going to finish out the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so you guys were aware and
Yeah.
everybody was aware.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
forwarded to him.
Everyone. But as we're talking about recreation, I just wanted to bring it, the one thing that I might have missed last month, and I apologize, I didn't follow up or correct myself. The concession stand, did you guys want to advertise for that this year? I know historically in the past, we've put an ad out in the paper to see if anyone was interested.
Right.
Would you like me to do my,
I did stop over at Four Brothers because they're going to have a food truck. They're getting a food truck this spring called Good Boys, I think it is. So I stopped over at Four Brothers and I spoke with Billy over there, and it's his son John's going to do it. So his son John's going to call me next week because this is their Easter week, so there's a lot of things going. And he'll give me the details on what their food truck is about, and then we'll be able to give them the details if we're going to go out to have them bid to come down for any of our games and stuff that we might want to have.
so all I need tonight, Michelle, is I'm looking for authorization to approve said advertisement. And then when they bid it, they'll get the bid packet from me, and then you guys can work those details out when we get all the bids back.
Okay.
How's that sound?
That's great with me.
So I make a motion to authorize the town clerk to advertise for someone to run the recreation
For concession stand.
concession stand at Beekman Park.
And I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I also bring to the board this evening, I had a request from, we call her Senora Martine, Sarah Martin. She is the junior class advisor at Weewood Central High School, and what they're looking to do is put together a car show for this spring, and they're looking for Sunday, May 20th. They missed the community day this year, so unfortunately that class wasn't able to put one on, and they're looking to see if they can use the lower parking lot. I know other classes in the past have done similar projects. It is a Sunday, so it's not going to conflict with farmer's market, and if that's okay with everyone, I would just request that we would waive those fees, similarly like we do with the farmer's market.
Who's providing insurance?
I did not throw that out there to her because I know that when it comes to the farmer's market, there's no insurance, no money, no anything. They're just in the lower parking lot.
Yeah, but they have their own private insurance, I guess.
Sure, we would tell them provide that. I'll ask her.
Before we say yes, I'd like to check with Byron.
Okay. Okay, so you'll just follow up? and
Yeah, I'll
let her
follow
know
up
we
on
need
that.
2 weeks?
Just to make sure.
Great, thank you. And this past 3 weeks, we had bids out for lawn mowing, and we've received 2. Number 1 and then number 2. So 2018 lawn mowing contract specifications were made available in the town clerk's office. Legal notice was posted in the Millerton News as well as the town clerk's official bulletin board and our website.
I should have brought my opener.
Just rip it open.
She can't, it's sealed.
And the
Okay,
winner
okay, now I got it. It's the project, opening the bids. Okay,
He filled out the second one in the yellow.
okay, so we have two. Okay, the bid for the mowing contract for the mowing season from April to November from Douglas Westfall is $11,400. Well, that one's a little easier. And the bid from Kindred Property Care is $19,900.
I move that we accept Doug Westfall's lower bid of $11,400 for the mowing.
Second.
Councilwoman Smoji?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Great, I'll notify him in the morning. Also, we had advertised for the opening typist position. Supervisor, would you like to,
I had 7 candidates. 2 of the 7 canceled their appointments to interview because they had found other positions, and or the job wasn't exactly what they wanted. I did interview 5 people. I have pretty well settled on one person, but we haven't notified the rest of the candidates. We haven't reached all the rest of the candidates yet.
okay, so you want to bring that to the next meeting? Or?
Well,
Do you need me to?
we did leave a message, so I make a motion that we hire Nancy Nowak to fill the typist position in the supervisor's office.
The existing rate.
Yes, $15.45 an hour for 20 hours a week.
Second.
Councilwoman Smoji?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
We have Eve Biddle here. Are you finished?
Just
One more thing.
well, I have 2 announcements. I would just like to remind the town of Amenia residents that April is a busy month if it comes to fire departments and their breakfast. So on April 15th, the Amenia Fire Company will be hosting their last breakfast of the season. So after April 15th, we'll see you in September. And Wassaic Auxiliary will be hosting their pancake breakfast on April 22nd. And then they're going to continue throughout the summer. So they meet again May 28th, June 24th, July 22nd, August 26th, and then September 23rd. And then we kind of switch. So no one has to cook on the next few Sundays. And then that'll conclude the town clerk's report for this week.
We have Eve Biddle here if we want to slide her in.
Okay, Eve, would you like to come up to the microphone and
She's from the Wassaic Project.
from the Wassaic Project? And
Hi, thank you guys for having me. My name is Eve Biddle. I'm one of the co-directors at the Wassaic Project, working with Bowie and Jeff. I've been corresponding with some of you about the possibility of utilizing some of the recreation spaces in Town Hall this summer for some of our dance residents. So this is a program that we're doing for the first time this summer, working with 2 very small dance groups. They're each 2 people. They're each coming for 3 weeks, one in June and one in July. And both groups have performed with us in the past down at the Wassaic Project. They're both coming and looking to rehearse in the, I'm hoping to work with you guys to have them rehearse in either the dance studio or the hall for 3 to 6 hours at a time, a couple times a week. And in keeping in mind that the town hall has wanted to do more public programming, part of their residency is an open rehearsal or workshop, and we would hope to do those here and co-promote them. We would do all of the sort of producing necessary and can bring sound and light as necessary, as well as sort of promote to our networks and through all the channels that we have available. They're both really fantastic. They're both really kid-friendly. They're both really joyful presenters. So that's what I'm bringing to you guys. And we do have insurance, and we can name the town of Amenia as an additional insured.
And the days and times are?
The times are flexible and can work around the programming that's already in place. There is sort of no preconceived notion about when those times need to be, except that they need to be sort of 3 to 6 hours in length so that sort of a real rehearsal can happen. The first group is coming from June 10th to the 30th, and the second group is coming from July 23rd to August 4th.
And there is a free performance associated with each of these sets of dancers, is that right?
Yes, so with each set of dancer, they're sort of contracted to do one open rehearsal or workshop and one performance. So we're hoping that that performance will happen at the Summer Festival, which is the first weekend in August, which, as you guys know, is free to everyone to attend, and that the open rehearsal or workshop, which will be youth-friendly, could happen here at Town Hall, either in the rehearsal space or the theater hall. And it could be really exciting to loop in the rec camp or some of the other programming that's already happening here, if the organizers of those think it's appropriate. But I know that the dancers would be really excited to sort of reach out to the broader community.
Yeah, the back of the auditorium is currently being used for ESL class, so we'll have to see if maybe we could work around that.
What are the times of that? It sounds like it's in the evenings. So these dancers would be available during the daytime. Is that true?
Yeah, I think that they're basically available 24 hours a day. I mean, they're coming up here to work on new projects and develop new ideas. And as far as I'm aware, they have no preconceived notions about what timing needs to be. Ideally not in the middle of the night, but I think any time during during the day is fine.
How many days a week do you suppose they would need the room?
I think ideally would be 5, but I don't think that that is hard and fast. And if we can coordinate where it's 3 or 4, I think we can work around that.
I'm just thinking if every weekday night the Spanish group is meeting anyway, so if you could tag it on, tag team, they would already have the place open for the Spanish. You guys come in, you have it open and do your thing, and then they close up at the end of the night when they're normally done. So if they would be here 5 days a week anyway, because we've contracted that, correct?
Yes.
So if you can just dovetail onto the back end of them, it will mean one less personnel, a person to lock up, right?
Yeah, you can work on that with the town clerk. She keeps the calendar. So
Okay.
if you just talk to Dawn and you can work it out with her.
I mean, there's some days that there are activities upstairs already pre-scheduled.
Right.
But between that and then if we were to look at the daytime on the stage, the only time frame that I would see an issue is the last week of your first one and your first week of the second set. When you have summer camp here, if it's inclement weather, the children all then, they get to play on the stage.
Sure, absolutely, and that can be
So,
flexible.
there's-
I think that if we look at the calendar together and we sort of
Yeah.
come up with 2 weeks that have a set schedule and one that is sort of pending weather, I think our dancers can work around that for sure.
Well, thank you for thinking of us. It's just
Absolutely,
another
the spaces are beautiful.
good use of our space here.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sense of, are they modern, classical?
Yeah, the first group is, it's interesting, they're all classically trained, but they're more modern in their choreography, but they're really accessible. I think that Shayna and Brian, the couple coming in June, danced at the summer festival this past year in 2017. I think they danced to a Rolling Stones song. So it's contemporary, but it's not so out there that you don't know what the heck is going on. You know, it was sort of told a love story, you know, but not in a romantic way, not in a sort of totally far out, you know, weirdo way.
Well, I think that's
I'm
great.
very drawn to modern dance that's really accessible, so they're my jam, if that makes any sense.
That's great.
And so then the rehearsals, working rehearsals, whatever they're called, they would be open to the public, so we could,
So not all the rehearsals would be open to the public, but there would be at least one scheduled that would be either a workshop or an open rehearsal. We'd pick a date collaboratively.
Okay.
They're flexible during their time.
Okay.
And that can either align with a weekend or evening when if we're trying to attract an adult crowd or a mixed age
right,
crowd,
right.
or it could be during the day during a rec camp. In particular, the group in June, Shayna and Brian, have done a lot of workshops with youth, in particular working on trust and confidence and in movement in the body. And that could be something that if everybody wants to take advantage of that, great, and if not, we could do something else.
I would be willing to be the liaison for your group and the town clerk to work out the details, get the insurance and the building use form, you know, appropriately filed, and make sure Byron Barnes is okay with her. I think it's $1 million, you know, waiver,
We have that on our insurance. so-
and you've already emailed it to me. So I'd make a motion that we go ahead and accept the proposal that we host the rehearsals for your 2 sets of dancers in over the summer, and look forward to the performances and working with you on that.
Thank you.
Okay, I just have one question. Those performances that you will have here, will they be free, or are we going to be charging a fee for people to come?
My expectation is that they
Free?
would be free, yeah.
Free? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Free is good.
Free
Yeah.
is perfect.
Want to second it? Go ahead, second.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I wanted to slip in one, hopefully very short, WSAIC-related agenda item, which is that on May 12th, we're hosting our Community Day, and we are hoping to shut down Main Street in front of the Lantern Inn from noon to 9 p.m., I think, for the jointly thrown WSAIC project and WSAIC Volunteer Fire Department Community Day that is a fundraiser for the Whale Scholarship Fund.
You will have to contact the Highway Superintendent, Megan Chamberlain, to do
Great.
that.
Great, will do.
May I ask a question about that? Don't block the general store until after 5 o'clock,
You got it.
okay? Okay.
Sure. Yeah, just get in touch with Megan, because there's a form that needs to be completed and filed with the town clerk.
Great, will do.
Okay?
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Building Department report. Fine, March's monthly report for the Building Department is building permits go. We have issued 11 new building permits totaling $24,374.25. We are continuing with certificate of occupancy searches, and for the month, we did 6 searches, which totals $650, along with 2 fire inspections of $100, bringing the total to the month of $25,124.25. Okay. And Water District report, the plan for improving water pressure for sanitary code. I guess that would be you? On the sanitary report, just so people know what we're doing, that we received from the Department of Health, they recommended we develop a plan to improve the pressure and flow conditions in our water distribution system.
we'll give you guys final copies.
Yeah. I'm going to bring that, send that over to our attorney.
Okay, Sean Morgan from SCVI Environmental. We've been dealing with the water system here for several years. And in response to the Department of Health, basically there were suggestions on, maintaining the system and keeping it within compliance. Once again, we do the sampling, and all the chemical analysis shows that the water is of great quality here. The issues that were dinged with regards to the operation were really the sizing of the piping and pressure in the system. The existing water tank is, I believe, was installed sometime in the 1970s, 80s area. That tank is only 40 feet above the ground elevation at the top of the hill. The system is a gravity flow system. So we have right now 4 operating groundwater pumps that pump up that tower, and it gravity feeds from that tower. So the existing pressure tank, the pressure at the tank is 18 psi. Technically, with the regulations, you're supposed to be hitting 20 psi as a minimum. It's supposed to be 35 psi during normal pumping operation periods. Due to the size of the tank, the height, you'll never get a gravity flow with that height. It's just not possible. The other areas that were issue were, over decades, the village has put in, the town has put in, smaller pipe that fit their needs at that point in time. So the regulations require any water main to be a minimum of 3 inches if it's a non-fire suppression rated system, which you guys would fall into. If it was a fire rated system, it would be 6-inch diameter pipe. So we went through, did the mapping for all the known sections of the water distribution system. On the maps there, you'll see areas green and more like a golden yellow letters in there. The letters identify areas where you do not meet that 3-inch minimum pipe diameter. Now, there are certain allowable regulations that allow you to keep those pipings if they achieve a hydraulic analysis done by a PE. So right now, what we're looking at is, do we want to replace the pipe or do the hydraulic analysis on that? So some of those pipes may not achieve the hydraulic analysis. Other ones are probably will. But we have gone through, identified it. There's 8 areas of pipe diameters less than 3 inches. They range from, off the top of my head, I think it was 1,900 feet to a couple hundred feet in length. So A would be 1,900 feet total length, and the small section is 490 feet, which is area C. So on that map there, each one of these locations have been identified. We did take the measurements off the map to get a rough estimate on the length of that pipe. On that map, you also see one large green line in the lower right column, lower right section of the map. To get that, what we did is we looked at the pressure at the tank, 18 psi. We want to achieve that 35 psi, which means what we need to do is find out at what point beyond do we feel really confident that we're achieving those pressures. So everything to the southeast on top of the hill. Those are all areas that are questionable, achieving that 35 PSI. Of course, we know at the water tower, because of the height, you're just slightly below the 20 PSI. So with the water tower, we really have three possibilities for the higher elevation areas. One is a new water tower, elevated. Two would be one single pump, pumping the water out of the tower, putting pressure reduction valves at least two locations in the distribution system, because once we do change it, either the tank elevation or if we pressurize the whole entire system, the one thing we have to worry about is overpressurizing the lower points in the distribution. So you have to have controls of obtaining the higher pressure at the higher elevations, at the same time not negatively affecting the pressure being too high down in the lower regions of the distribution system. And so a third option would be to install a smaller pump and actually putting a smaller loop up inside the area of higher elevation. So right now, all the water goes into the tower, or goes into the system, goes into the tower. All of it comes out of the tower. The third option would be keep the water coming out of the tower under the existing pressure for everything beyond that green line on that map. Everything up above that would be subject to putting in new piping, putting in a pump, and actually pressurizing that system to attain the pressures you have. The green line on that is subject to change right now. This is strictly off topography maps. Also, it has a 10 PSI safety factor in there. You're going to have some head losses through the system. You do have some aged pipes, so you can have head losses in the pipes. So what we really want to do is all those parcels of lands that are identified with the green parcel numbers on there is to go through and do a survey in there. You know, in the previous ones we talked about the booster pumps that have been historically installed at these houses is you know, one, to see if they do have a booster pump, and two is actually go through and do a pressure reading at those houses. So that would incorporate going through, finding out who the owners are. Like I said, I believe the number is about 58, 59 different parcels, arranged to go in there, do an inspection, get pressure readings, and actually adjust that line back on true data as opposed to going off a USGS map, which is definitely much more reliable. So the third thing we were talking about was a distribution system improvements. Right now, the system is you have extended areas of old pipe, ranging from 70, 60, 50, 40 years, which is definitely getting aged. So you want to have some reliability and flexibility in the system. So right now, if we did have a water main break on Mechanicstown or in South Main Street, that would require shutting off the water to everybody on the western half of Route 22. So we were looking at, you know, one, the pressure, the flow, but what was pretty evident is if we go through and extend a line, and look at the Main Street. It is from the end of Hanley Drive, we have actually a new section of good plastic pipe. And then across 22, we have another section, another loop of relatively new plastic pipe. So we feel very confident with that piping. So to avoid potential, large-scale loss of water, what we'd like to do is go through, extend from the plastic pipe at the end of Hanley Drive, replacing the piping along Lower Powder House Road, and extending that across 22 to Uniontown Road. This way, if you ever did have, well, we eventually do have a water main problem. Realistically, the pipes are 7 years old. You're definitely going to have eventual breaks in these lines. So like I was saying, if we had a break on Mechanic Street or East Main Street, you would either lose all the flow to the loop of the new pipe, or you're going to be forcing all your flow through the 4-inch pipe. So we expect to see big pressure drops and turbidity issues and things we'd like to avoid. So this smaller project would allow you flexibility, reliability of the system, decrease head losses through the system. At the same time, it would be used to replace one of the areas that we know has, substantially undersized pipe. The pipe in that area is 3/4 inch, which really should have 3 inch. So we're definitely lacking pipe diameter in that section. And that really stood out as, the low-hanging fruit. You want to have a system where if it does break, you can make the next steps, make 99% of people happy. At the same time, go through, it's going to decrease operational costs, electricity, because you have different flow methods, more pipes, the larger the diameter pipes, the less head loss, the less electricity you consume on your system.
What material is that 3/4 inch pipe?
That one is probably copper, to copper or steel.
Galvanized?
Probably. I'd have to talk to Marco. Marco has a lot more hands-on experience with the majority of this pipe throughout the whole entire.
And how old is it? Do you know?
Lower, that section, not definite. Being steel, I believe he was saying the plastic pipes were 1990s, so this is probably prior 1990, so it could be anywhere from the 80s to the 50s.
Well, if it's galvanized, it's probably in pretty bad shape right now.
Yeah, and that is one of the larger sections of undersized pipe. So that would serve multiple benefits to the operation of the system. Now, we did put some rough cost estimates together for all the things that we were talking about. Now, the undersized pipe, what we'd look at is going through, doing a hydraulic analysis, sections where you could leave the existing pipe in there until it eventually does need to be replaced. We're estimating that to be about 8,500. The total length of undersized pipe throughout the whole entire village, based on the maps that we have, is roughly 8,000 feet. So generally the engineering cost for water main replacement is $100 to $150 per linear foot. So that would put you around $800,000 to $1.2 million to replace the 8,000 square feet. And the important part is, we've talked about going through and really looking at 2 tracks for the village. We're going to look at grants to try to recover some of the funds. But 2, on some of these smaller projects is break them out and try to use the municipality employees to do some of the excavation and piping. That serves 2 purposes. One, greatly reduces the cost. Anytime you're doing municipal work, this type of work requires bond. That's an automatic 10% increase in the cost of the project. 2 is prevailing wage rates. you know, and profit to the construction company. So you could, you know, substantially decrease some of the piping that needs to be put in. The additional loop, trying to get rid of that one section, I think, is even if it does pass, which I'd be extremely shocked if it does, given the fact that it's 3/4 inch. I don't expect that to pass a hydraulic analysis to begin with. But that would be the first step. But trying to reduce the cost further than those numbers. The areas of low pressure. So, you know, basically to try to contact people that are owners of roughly 58 properties, go through, schedule, meet them, do the inspection, do the pressure readings. We're looking, you know, $7,500 to do that pressure and booster survey. A new water tower with pressure reduction at 2 places throughout the system. Relatively similar construction projects of the same size of the tank. You're probably in the range of $900,000 to $1,250,000 to install an elevated tank to get the pressures that you need. You know, if we went with a pumping system and a pressure reduction, that would probably be in the range between $300,000 and $400,000. Now the pumping system with the higher elevation piping, we have a larger range in that. So if you look, generally the engineering estimates are, you know, a number and then plus 30%. But with the pumping system, with higher elevation pumping, we're looking anywhere from $240,000 to $520,000. The large range on that is going to fluctuate based on where we see that pressure not being achieved. So
which you would know after you did the survey.
Exactly. So do the survey, find out, you know, where we are hitting that 35, 20 psi, and then back out where we need to extend that system. My preference would be the separate pipelines. The reason for that is the complexity and the aged piping. You know, if we go through and start adding, you know, 20, 30 psi up on top of the hill with old pipes, we are going to encounter leaks. And I'll tell you that right now. There's no way around it. And I'm not going to hide that fact. But if you have old pipes and you increase the pressure, you're going to find more leaks. So if we go through with the third alternative, new piping, it's more reliable. We don't have to pressurize the old piping. It's going to decrease the flow through the old piping, decrease the head loss through the old piping. And it's just a lot more reliable to operate. And will reduce the complexity of some of the controls. And we don't have to try to counteract or evaluate the existing groundwater wells to make sure it doesn't create an issue. If we go through and did one single pump, one single pressure with reduction, the pumps that are pumping from the groundwater to the tank will now have to overcome those pumps. So when we do that analysis and look at their capabilities, we're going to get a reduction of flow from the water supply wells. So
is one of the goals to do away with the individual pumps in people's
boosters?
homes?
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely one of those legacy things that have been around for decades. And that's probably why it's never really been an issue. It's maybe grandfathered in. We're not definite of that. If it, you know, we'd have to go back through the old regulations to see if there's an exemption for that. But the new standards are no individual household booster pumps. You have to have access to maintain it, you have to have access to inspect it, you have to have backflow protection. Technically, you have to have 2 pumps, bypass, pressure gauges before, pressure gauges after, and I really don't expect to find all those bells and whistles on pumps that were installed 30, 40 years ago. Just not the way that it was historically done. And they're probably coming to their lifetime use. Pumps are only going to last so long. It's a liability issue and something you want to try to avoid. The distribution system improvements, that was the extension of plastic pipe for the existing plastic pipe to across Route 22. We're kind of ballparking that around $250,000 to $350,000. But once again, I think that's more of a contractor price. We've used different parts of DPW to do certain small projects in the past. One of the benefits would be, if it does come to a grant, is a match on the grant. You're allowed to supply personnel in lieu of cash. So I think that is, key to, 1, reducing your cost. 2, if we do find grants that you come through, it gives you an ability to not take cash out of your account, but to use your existing machinery, personnel, and then reduce the overall cost for that. So really, in conclusions, the system achieves the drinking water standards. The previous systems that were installed, decades ago, of course, don't meet the current requirements. The existing tank elevation is not sufficient to maintain the 20 or 35 psi. The small diameter pipes have been used. They don't comply with the existing requirements. And we definitely identified, what we think would be the best first step for the operations of the systems. And the first steps would be, look at the hydraulic analysis. If we can, if we don't find a grant that meets your total financial needs, or if you find smaller grants, is try to fill smaller projects in as we go along. Try to get you guys the most bang for your buck. But that extension is definitely key to avoiding any major issues that would affect a huge portion of the distribution network.
What height tower do you suppose you'd need to get to 35 north of the green line?
Can you say again?
What height tower do you suppose you'd need to get to north of 35?
If we went with the existing location with that, we'd be going up 35 feet from the existing height. So we're looking at 75 feet above the ground surface up there. I know that I live in a rural area. Some people don't like to see, some water towers come up. It's amazing. It's like down in Virginia, you go through and some of these water towers are really artwork. I mean, painted up, just really nice. But when you go to other communities, people are going to see a change in their view. They don't like change. So with that, like I said, if we do change the tank elevation, we will have to go back. We will have to look at the pumps that are pumping from the ground up to the tower, make sure that those aren't negatively affected. But we highly anticipate to have more leaks occur between where we put the pressure reduction and where the water tower exists will be. It's just a fact of life. Old pipes, higher pressure, always results in more leaks. If we went with the smaller piping, not smaller piping, but a smaller loop in the upper elevation, one, you get more piping, you get newer piping, and you avoid creating pressure issues with that.
Could that system be fire rated?
Not cheaply. Really, if you look on that map,
You're just probably talking.
yeah, you want to fire rate just the upper portion?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be no problem. I mean, if you really think about it, the cost of a pipe isn't the huge cost. It's a slight cost. It's going to cost you more for 6-inch pipe than 3-inch pipe. But most of your cost is in labor, excavating out, having the pipe shipped, putting it in. Actually, if you go to 6-inch pipe, you're losing the amount of backfill that you have to put in the hole. So there's not a huge difference between a 6-inch and a 3-inch, and that can be easily done. It's, if you were going to do, I don't think you have any industrial parcels up there, do you?
It's all residential.
All residential. Generally, commercial facilities are the ones that are looking for the fire rating. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to go ahead and put it up in case you eventually want to extend. If you want to go through and for some reason you got a project in here that someone wants to do a commercial facility that everyone's gung-ho on and want to try to reduce their cost, that could be extended, less distance. If you don't have the fire rating, then they have to have the storage on site, pump capacity on site. And dealing with insurance companies, they're risk adverse. So, if they can charge anybody extra, they don't. I'm sure you guys are aware of that.
No, the reason why I brought it up is if you're talking about, making it just a new loop for that system, it might be worthwhile to since the entire system's not fire rated currently, if you were going to make the upgrade, you might as well, make the upgrade.
We do have around Main Street, Mechanic Street, so really the dark blue, the light blue, and the orange. So all this meets the requirement of the pressure rating. So if you wanted to go through, you could adjust that later. Once again, my concerns on
Old pipe.
higher pressure than old pipes.
So, I'm sorry, I'm confused. If we did a new loop at the top of the hill to address pressure,
Yeah.
we still wouldn't be at 35.
You'd have a
North.
pump and no existing water tank. So we would have 2 outlets to the water tank. You'd use the existing gravity feed to supply water to every point below that green line, or wherever we move that green line to. So every place that we find 35 psi under normal pumping conditions, that's our stop point. Everything from that point to the tower, there would be new piping extended to those, and that would be
Separate pump.
and that would be operated by a pump.
Okay, so in that scenario, we don't need a new water tower
No,
at all.
no. The water towers, your water tower is old, but it's not in bad shape. It's been painted. It's good condition. I believe you guys have cathodic protection. I think it was tested last year.
Yes.
So you're using cathodic protection. Eventually you will have to paint that. And I think the values are about $6 per square foot for painting. I think you guys run into about $100,000 range within the next couple of years, eventually. But rust-wise, a couple minor areas of rust in that tower. That has potential to last, well into, 10, 15, 20 years. If you keep up the cathodic protection, paint it every 20 years, it should last you. And, Marco's a resident here, I'm not, but, my town came up and said, well, 100,000 for 20 years or, 1.2 million this year. I would tell them 100,000 for the next 20 years. It's the truth. It's less income for us, but it's definitely financial. For you guys, it's the best bet.
So we'll get a better idea of what to do if we do the surveys?
Yes, yeah. So if we go through hydraulic survey, we go through, look at the pipe diameters. With that, we got to find out which customers are being serviced by those 8 different locations. Look at the water flow rates for those buildings. Some of those areas really expect them to pass. Don't worry about those for now. Unless a good grant comes out, and then you guys can use some of your labor to match or at least get a good return. Some of them are 50%, some of them are 25%. They're all over the place on the match requirement for municipalities. But at least kind of prioritize, try to fit into whatever cap they allow you to put in. So if there's a smaller grant that comes out, is find the part of your system that can be funded through that mechanism. What we don't want to do is throw all the numbers out there and pray that the state comes out with a $2 million grant for a municipality where you can do everything all, which would be great if we could. But if there are smaller grants, $50,000 grant, $100,000 grant, is take the part out of that can be handled with that funding and fix that problem and slowly make improvements with the system. But if they do come out with, hopefully, this infrastructure funding, which they've been talking about for a while, well, decades now, but hopefully they start funding some of the infrastructure. If there are some definitely funding opportunities, then definitely go for those funding opportunities.
Yeah, the problem is the prior grants have been based on improving the infrastructure based on water quality. And I think the newer grants that are coming out are more focused on beefing up the infrastructure itself.
Well,
without totally being dependent on the water quality.
Well, the sustainability is another aspect of that too. What we could look at is, energy savings with, putting that extension on. If we, like I said, if we can go through and find different parts of the system that fit into different parts of the grant, and fit into that, and applying the grants work well when your project fits their checklist.
Well, I'm thinking that the repairs that need to be made to the H pipes, and also what we have to do to address the Department of Health's issues with the pressure and flow, we would have to do in phases anyway.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if they did come out with larger grants that fit your purpose, I don't come across many regulatory people that say don't do too much too quickly.
No, it's just that, we have to look at, staying within our means too.
Oh, yes, without a doubt.
So what I'm thinking, if we did both surveys, that would help us get an assessment of what we have.
Yes, and we'll definitely be able to rein back in, some.
And then the surveys could be used for a grant application.
Yes. Yeah.
Do we have any numbers on how many people have the booster pumps?
No, we do. We highly expect a mass majority to be somewhere between that green line and the water tap.
We know the area,
Yeah.
they have them.
There may be some booster pumps and some of the smaller diameter pumps that are below that, but you do gain pressure the further you go down the hill. So with some of the piping 70 years old, your 6-inch pipe is no longer 6-inch. You know, you can go through some of the pipes, you end up tearing up. Your 6-inch pipe is really a 2-inch pipe or a 4-inch pipe. So they especially the older metallic pipes, they start to build up materials on the inside and eventually clog and create head losses. So there may be a few that aren't within that green line, but without trying to look for something where we don't expect to find it, and kind of focus finding out things where we expect them to be.
Right.
That's our purpose in the survey.
How much is the survey itself?
We're looking at 7,500 and 8,500 for the two different surveys. So the hydraulic analysis, like I said, would be, finding out who's serviced on those 8 different lines, find out how much water they use, do a hydraulic analysis on that based on the flow, the length. On that, the pressure and booster pump survey, 7,500. Like I said, I think the number is about 58 parcels. You got to look up the parcel numbers, find out who the owner is, what buildings, arrange to go out there. 60, probably 30 to 40 different houses, do the inspections, do the documentation, do the pressure readings, and put that into a report.
So there's a community development block grant, and I know that other communities have used that, and there's no match as far as I can remember, and it's due in August. So is there a possibility of that timing?
Yes.
15,000, maybe dovetail another, because it's typically 100 to 150,000 if infrastructure is still a priority.
Yeah, we'll see what the priorities are.
So, but I would think that that would be something that we would obviously be looking for over the years, because, doing at least that.
Yeah.
Because, this is costs that are going to be borne just by the water district, is that correct? So
Yes.
this is
Yes.
going to be borne on the shoulders of very few people, really. And as I understand, when we were looking to the wastewater feasibility, the one thing that's a good thing is that for the wastewater, you weren't allowed to tax people beyond a certain percentage of their estimated household income. So in other words, you can't, even though we need a water system, we can't force people out of their house and put $1 million, budget all at once on their plate. So is that still true of the water district? In other words, at some point, we couldn't raise the taxes beyond a certain threshold?
With respect to the threshold from the controller's office applies for district extensions and new district creation. To the extent you're improving
an existing
system, the threshold does not count.
Okay.
So, and if you were adding somebody to the system, then the limitation applies. But this is called a 202B improvement. So if you're doing a 202B improvement, and it's mandated by DEC, or if it's mandated by
Department of Health,
you're not limited by the cap.
Threshold.
But obviously, you are limited for practical purposes, because
they can only afford so much.
You can only get so much blood out of a stone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When is that, next grant due?
So August, we start talking about it, and by October, it has to be filed, right? So
Okay. So it hasn't
public
been
hearings
published
and
yet.
all of that.
Yeah.
But if we could be ready, formulating
Yeah.
or moving towards that, we know that that comes up every year and that we have a high probability
Yeah.
in that case. And as far as I know, that would be a good use of it, right? Millerton, I believe, was doing similar projects, little bits at a time, chunks of their water district, and we have documentation that says it's necessary, right?
Yes.
So
There'd probably be grants available through the CFA, and that's due around the same time. That's due in August.
Yeah, there's some small cities.
And there's some grants there that would be a possibility to
And then
use for
there's
them.
always the EFC, which typically is just a low interest financing.
Yeah.
But, that's generally available. I mean, one of the things in looking at the map here, this suggestion from Chandler Drive, the connection over to Route 22, I mean, that kind of does two things. One, it replaces a fairly long section of 3¼ inch and 4-inch pipe, at the same time creates a loop that, so I think that's certainly one focus of this whole project that makes a lot of sense. Because, and then also to the extent, if you're going to commit to doing that, you wouldn't have to do the hydraulic study in the area if you're going to.
No, you eliminate the hydraulic study for that one section, one out of the 8.
But would that address the pressure issue?
Oh, no. If you replace it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're from
Because
down
the
hill,
issue the
pressure.
Department of Health has is the pressure and flow. So
Yeah.
if we replace that section, that
Yeah.
would address their issue.
Yeah, when you go from a 6-inch to a 3/4 inch, you're going to have negligible headwinds.
So would you replace the 4-inch in this section
Yeah.
here?
Yeah,
Right.
so that here and.
So you take this
Yeah.
out to here.
Right, yeah, pretty much from that blue line. It just makes it so much sense for operational
Right.
economics.
And that's why you made an A.
What's that? Actually, I kind of follow most of my numbering clockwise, so.
That's 6 o'clock.
If there was a smaller pipe over here, that would.
So does that mean that if we did the hydraulic analysis, that would give us some information that would address some of these issues, or?
The hydraulic analysis is just going to determine which pipes are definitely going to have to come out.
So it would seem that would be something we would need to know
Yes,
right up front.
yeah,
right, so that's why I was saying CDBG, get that documented, get your ducks in a row, and then go for the bigger, more competitive
But we can do the
grants.
survey now.
Yeah.
Because
well,
there's
you're
mon-
gonna have to do it before
15,000.
that.
well, we have, there's quite a
Money
bit
in
of,
the-
quite a bit of money in the capital project,
Right.
capital project fund for the water district.
yeah.
So we would be able, that fund is
And that
in
actually
there.
would be considered a capital expense rather than an operating expense because,
Yes.
you're
So we would be
doing a
able to use
study
that, right?
to
Part of
do
capital.
future capital improvements. So. and-
So this is exactly what we have that money set aside for,
Right.
is for improvements and upgrades to the water district.
Right. So, and any surveys that would be preliminary to do that would be, can be considered to be a capital expense.
So do we need a motion to authorize the use of that capital fund for these 2 surveys?
Well, we have to decide if we're doing both. Are we doing both surveys, or?
Well, you have to do the one.
We have to do the hydraulic one.
So, yeah, so that's, just so the board is clear, that's, on this map, let me just clarify, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, an H for the undersized pipe to determine whether or not they need to be replaced.
Yeah.
So that's the hydraulic study, and then the other
Right.
study would be to look at the properties
On the hill. We got
on the
it.
hill besides, so those are
Yeah,
fundamentally two
there are a
separate
couple of
studies.
small sections. Like I didn't include the 3/4 inch that falls into the hydraulics and the pressure.
Okay.
So that survey would just tell us who has the pumps and what kind of condition they are? I mean, we already know they probably don't meet any sort of standard.
Well, yeah, I mean, if someone has a pump, you could probably knock them off the survey, because I think that probably includes,
Well, I mean, you do have some
Got-
play
well, right,
between what is the minimal acceptable.
Sure.
What people like.
right, I mean, you could still get some data from those as far as how bad is the condition.
Well, actually, that probably would be helpful getting a grant if we can
Yeah.
show how bad a shape we're in, and as far as pressure.
The better,
Yeah.
for sure.
And, you know, for an economic standpoint, working the grant is kind of, you know, a lot of grants will have Group A, Group B, Group C.
Mhm.
We want to see infrastructure, we want to see sustainability, we want to see energy efficiency. And, you know, if you come out with one that's just energy efficiency, well,
That's true.
you can go through and say, well, if we put this one section of pipe in, you know, 3/4 to 6 inch, you know, we can save so much energy per year for that. And just kind of back calculate, you know, how our project
Mhm.
falls into their nook.
And that's one of the things that now the way the CFA grant program works, you can have a project that you apply for a number of different grants so that you can get, in essence, say, some money for, you could qualify for a certain percentage of the grant money for, out of the grant pool for water funding. But to the extent you're eliminating the booster pumps, you'd be reducing energy consumption. So that might be a NYSERDA grant under a certain thing. So theoretically, you could, you know, attempt to get grants from 4 or 5 different pools.
For different,
I think-
to meet different goals.
Right.
I think we've kicked this around long enough,
Yeah,
okay? Let's get on with it. I think we should do them both.
okay.
Would you like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion, that we
No,
do
but
both
we don't
surveys.
have the numbers. I mean, you have fixed numbers, you have a,
We'll go with those numbers. We'll fix them at those costs. It's no problem.
7,500 and 8,500?
and there's no need to bid it or get some,
No,
Sense of-
no, it's services.
okay.
Okay, I second it.
And
But
I-
can
I
you
do-
give me those numbers again, because I didn't write them down?
Yeah, it's.
Oh, they're right here, Vicki.
They're in there, oh, they're in this
Yeah.
proposal? Okay.
So the hydraulic analysis of
Okay,
the
so-
piping, 8,500, and the pressure and booster survey is 7,500.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Can you electronically send that, so we
Yes.
have that available
Yeah.
here at the town
Do you
hall?
want this? You can
Sure.
keep that one.
I'll take that one. And I'll take
And
the
the,
one.
and the motion would be to fund that through the capital
Yes,
reserve.
Capital Reserve Fund for the Water
Water
District.
District.
Councilman Simoji?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Something to look at over the weekend?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I keep this? Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to helping you guys, you know, any way that works out the best for you. Whether, you know, you get the great grant or we spend the next 10 years.
Chipping away.
gradual
Okay.
progression, improvement.
Be ready to chip.
Right. Like I said, you know, when it comes to, you know, old pipes breaking in the winter, we're the ones out there.
Yeah, we'll do that section.
And I got to listen to Marco in January.
Okay,
Thanks.
Good night.
thank you.
I got to make a final comment. Matt?
Okay, under committee reports, I do have a grant report from the grant writer, Wassaic Trail to the Train. We still have the $480,000 grant, local match is $120,000. The newest grant of the ones that we've applied for is a kitchen grant from Community Foundation of Hudson Valley at $25,000 a year. We haven't been, the proposal was submitted on March 15th, and we're waiting for the funding. Are there any other committee reports?
April 21st, that's a Saturday, the Enhancement Committee is going to be meeting at Fountain Square and tidying up Fountain Square, getting ready for Planting Day in May. So if anybody wants to join us, you can park at the M&T parking lot, and we'll be right there at the War Memorial, 10 to noon. And the Enhancement Committee has not had a chance to review the plans that are just being drafted by Leo Blackman, our architect, and Marcia Kaufman, who donated their time thus far. She's the garden designer, and so I had asked that we put them on the agenda for our April 19th board meeting, but I think perhaps we're going to wait until the Enhancement Committee has had a chance to look over the plans themselves, and then we'll, if they haven't done so by then, we may put it off to the May town board meeting.
Is there any other committee meeting?
I just wanted to say about the Easter egg hunt that we had. We had a great success with that. And I just want to say thank you to people who donated their time and their energy and did many things. Frankie O'Connell, Christine Ford, William Ford, Dawn Marie, Chris, Zach, and Carly Klinger, Brennan Laundrie, Emma Valley, Tori Gillow, Victoria Parati, the Amenia Recreation Commission, Linda Gregory, and Tallyho Estate Seniors for filling the eggs, and Sarah Ford, our newest volunteer. So I just want to thank all of you for doing that and coming out, and the people had a wonderful time. We were absolutely packed. The entire auditorium was packed with people. The only other thing I want to say is about the senior trips. The first one is going out on June 14th to the Log Cabin, the Lobster Fest, and the thing will be on the TV. And I just want to let people know that Amenia residents are going to get first choice for everything for that particular trip. I'm only saying this because we have a lot of people from Dover who sometimes like to come. But Dover Seniors is running the exact same trip on the exact same day. So friends out there, seniors, if you're thinking your Dover friend should come with you, I'm going to have to say no to your Dover friend. They will have to go with the Amenia seniors because the Dover seniors, because we have to give our Amenia seniors the first choice to go on that trip. So, and also for Amenia seniors who might want to sign up for any trips, the third Wednesday of the month, this April, which is Wednesday the 18th, I believe, if I'm got my date right, I'll be in the town hall from 10 to noon. If you want to come in and sign up for the trips, you can come in at that time and see me. And I'll be right in that little alcove by Marge, because as soon as you pay me, I'm paying Marge, and the trip's going to start rolling. So I just wanted to say all of that. I know it's going to be a great success, and I'm just looking forward to it, everyone coming and having a good time. And thank you all. That's it that I have for that.
Are there any other committee reports? Okay, action resolution for assessor grievance day change, resolution number
15.
adopting local law number 2 of 2018 entitled Local Law to Change the Grievance Day for Assessments, whereas resolution number 13 was duly adopted by the town board of the town of Amenia on March 15, 2018, introducing local law number 2 of 2018 entitled Local Law to Change the Grievance Day for Assessment. The public hearing was scheduled to be held by the town board at Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, at 7 p.m. on April 5, 2018, to hear all interested parties on said proposed local law number 2 of 2018, whereas notice of said public hearing was duly advertised in Millerton News on March 22, 2018, and posted on the town clerk's signboard on March 16, 2018, and the Town of Amenia website on March 16, 2018. Whereas the Town of Amenia currently employs an assessor who is at the same time employed by another jurisdiction's assessing unit. And whereas the purpose of this proposed local law is to change the day of grievance day pursuant to Section 512(1)A of Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York, Real Property Tax Law, from the fourth Tuesday in May to the first Thursday following the fourth Tuesday in May. And whereas said local law has been on the desks of the members of the town board of the town of Amenia for at least 7 days, exclusive of Sunday prior to the adoption of this resolution, now therefore be it resolved, town board hereby adopts said local law number 2 of 2018, entitled a local law to change grievance day for assessment, a copy of which is attached hereto, made part of this resolution. Be it further resolved that the town clerk is directed to send a certified copy of this resolution to the New York State Commissioner of Taxation and Finance and the Dutchess County Director of Real Property Tax Services. Be it further resolved that the town clerk is directed to enter said local law in the minutes of the meeting, to file said local law with the New York Secretary of State. I make that motion.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes?
And Councilwoman Samaji?
Yes.
Okay, Town of Amenia, local law number 2, local law to change a grievance day for assessments, be it enacted by the town board of the town of Amenia as follows. Section 1 title, the local law shall be known as local law to change a grievance day for assessments. 2, authority. The local law was adopted pursuant to authority contained in Section 512 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York. Section 3, purpose. The town of Amenia employs an assessor who is at the same time employed by another jurisdiction's assessing unit. The grievance days for both assessing units are established by Section 512(1) of the Real Property Tax Law as the fourth day of Tuesday in May in each year. Section 512(1)A of the Real Property Tax Law permits a governing body of an assessing unit to adopt a local law establishing a date for the meetings of the Board of Assessment Review, also known as Grievance Day, other than that provided by Section 512(1). Section 4, Grievance Day established. The town of Amenia hereby adopts a date for the meeting of the Board of Assessment Review, also known as Grievance Day, as the first Thursday following the fourth Tuesday of May, and so many days after as the Board of Assessment Review deems necessary to hear complaints in relation to assessments in the town of Amenia. Section 5, inconsistency. All other local laws and ordinances of the town of Amenia are inconsistent with the provisions of this local law are hereby repealed, provided, however, that such repeal shall only be the extent of any such inconsistency. In all other respects, this local law shall be in addition to such other local laws or ordinances regulating and governing the subject matter covered by the local law. Section 6, severability. If any clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of the local law or the application thereof to any person, firm, or corporation or circumstance shall be adjudicated by any court of competent jurisdiction to be invalid or unconstitutional, such order or judgment shall not affect, impair, or invalidate the remainder thereof, but shall be confined in its operation to the clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law, or in its application to the person, individual, firm, or corporation or circumstance directly involved in the controversy in which judgment or order shall be rendered. Section 7, effective date. The local law shall be effective immediately upon its filing with the Secretary of State and the State Board of Equalization and Assessment. Okay, resolution for library parking lot lease. This is the parking lot next to the library that the town rents for $10 a year. Resolution number 16. Authorizing extension of a lease agreement between the Amenia Free Library Association and the Town of Amenia. Whereas the Amenia Free Library Association and the Town of Amenia are parties to a lease agreement for a 2-year period commencing January 1st, 2016, expiring on December 31st, 2017, which was a renewal from a lease agreement for the period January 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2015, for a lease of the Amenia Free Library associated land located on Route 343, adjacent to the library in the town of Amenia for use as a municipal facility, parking bearing tax grid 01716713167,494. Whereas the existing lease agreement, which commenced on January 1st, 2016, expired on December 31st, 2017. Whereas pursuant to paragraph 2 of the lease agreement, the parties could mutually agree to a 2-year additional term, the renewal option. Whereas the town has continued to use the property as a municipal parking facility to the present time in accordance with the terms and conditions of the lease agreement. Whereas in lieu of the 2-year renewal option set forth in the current lease agreement, the landlords are desirous of renewing the lease agreement for a shorter period as the landlord has future plans for the property commencing in 2019. Whereas the parties have agreed to a 2-year renewal option subject to termination by the landlord on 30 days written notice on or after April 1st, 2019. Whereas the renewal term shall be deemed to be commenced on January 1st, 2018, and shall expire on December 31st, 2019, subject to early termination by the landlord, as specified herein. Whereas the execution of an addendum to the lease agreement for the continual rental of the property is a Type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and therefore is not required any further action under seeker. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Amenia hereby approves an addendum to the lease between the town and library in substantially the same form as annexed hereto for the term January 1st, 2018 to April 30th, 2019. And be it further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes and directs the town supervisor to execute addendum number 1 to the lease agreement in substantially the same form as annexed hereto, and be it further resolved that the lease agreement shall otherwise remain in full force and effect. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I second it.
Discussion. I don't remember this being in the budget.
$10?
The $10 is in the budget.
I'm just kidding. I wanted to say...
It has its own line.
Since the landlord has the right to terminate it within 30 days, next time we do this, can we ask them for a longer lease term? We're not
No.
allowed?
Well, it's their property and they're doing an addition, so when they break ground, then that property will no longer be available to us.
Got it.
I think the $10 is too much.
Aye.
You know, we didn't put a provision in here that the $10 should be adjusted if you call it too
Prorated,
early.
right. 70 cents per month?
Supervisor Prodi?
Yes.
Councilman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Samoji?
Yes.
Okay, resolution for Dutchess County Shared Services Procurement Contract. Resolution number
17.
Authorizing execution of a shared services agreement with Dutchess County, whereas in 2017, the governor and members of the state legislature enacted a state budget including a provision that mandated the county executive lead a panel comprised of all city, town, and village executives in the creation of a countywide shared services property tax savings plan. Whereas through the course of 2017, that plan was formulated to save taxpayer dollars by reducing costs. Whereas one of the projects included in that plan was for the utilization of a county procurement specialist, which includes the purchase of county-provided procurement assistance by municipalities. Whereas it has been determined that there would be administrative cost savings with avoiding workloads such as the creation of bids, RFPs, and quote document specifications, moderating the bid process, evaluating bid RFP quote responses, and the tabulation of results. In addition, there could be significant savings in cooperative purchase agreements and piggybacking off other municipal and state contracts. Whereas during the formation of this project, the town of Amenia expressed an interest in participating in this shared service. Whereas the procurement specialist services are outlined in the proposed agreement with Dutchess County. Whereas the scope of the services in the agreement include assist in the writing and preparation of requests for bids and proposals, post-prepared bid requests for bids and proposals in newspapers on the internet, assist in the evaluation of vendors, bids, and proposals to assure they meet specifications, and whereas the town would be responsible to pay a fee to Dutchess County for this service in the amount of $60 per hour, whereas the town is authorized to enter into a shared services agreement with the county for central purchasing services pursuant to New York State General Municipal Law, Section 119, and whereas Dutchess County Legislature has authorized the county executive to execute the shared services agreement pursuant to Resolution 2016290, now therefore be it resolved that the town supervisor be and hereby is authorized to execute an agreement for the town's participation in the Dutchess County Shared Services Program for procurement specialist services in accordance with a proposed contract from Dutchess County and substantially in the same form as annexed hereto. Make that motion.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Snorji?
Yes.
Now, the resolution for monopole settlement will have to be tabled because the MTA is still deciding on what language they prefer. So I'm not sure how much longer that will take. But the FCC is really pushing for a settlement on this issue. So we should have something by the next meeting. The NYSEG LED proposal approval. I gave you a copy of the letter. We have a proposal from NYSEG who will replace all the lighting in the Amenia Town Hall with LED lighting. If they're, in addition to replacing fixtures, for example, in the auditorium, we have like chandeliers with lights. They are going to give us LED lights for all of the chandeliers. And anywhere there was, we have a fixture that has a bulb in it, they will give us the bulbs.
So they're going to leave the chandeliers but change the bulbs themselves.
Right.
To be inappropriate.
They're actually going to do the replacement, though, right?
They're doing
Doing
everything.
the labor. Because
Yes.
we had a little back and forth on email about this, and I just wanted to be sure that it was compliant with the no bid under procurement law, and it's under the $30,000 for services, but I just want to be sure this doesn't qualify as an equipment purchase. In
No.
which case it would be.
Well, and as it is, they are going to pay 70% of the cost.
Yeah. This one is a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a good.
And the other 30%, they will finance at 0% financing for 24 months.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay, you want to make the motion that we
Yes.
accept the
Well, I think we
NYSEG
should
proposal?
Yes.
Explain
I make the motion that we accept the proposal.
to the public what the numbers are for the total project cost of $28,324.50 NYSEG's contribution is going to be $19,650.42. And so our overall net cost to the taxpayers is $8,674.08. And our estimated future lighting costs are going to be $5,069 per year, I guess. So that is,
It means that
Going
our
to
our
bring
lighting
us
costs
back.
will be reduced by 50%.
and going forward, it will be a bonus to you taxpayers.
That's a very good deal for us.
Yeah, so the town contribution is $8,674.
Right.
That's right.
08. So for purposes of the procurement policy, the bidding requirements, even if it's considered, this is kind of a mix between a service and procurement of a good.
Yeah.
So even then, it's under the threshold.
That's
Well,
yeah.
Right, but my point was that there's the contractor that's doing this is Lime,
Oh, okay.
where we're there. So this third-party contractor is receiving a total award of
Not from
20,
us.
not from us, but
Yeah.
they wouldn't be getting $28,000 if we weren't authorizing them to do this work. I think it's an incredibly great deal, and I'm fully supportive of it, as I said in my email, but I just wanted to be sure that we weren't doing something without going to bid if we...
So typically on, for example, if you were going to, the example that I know comes from a water tower. There was a question where a water tower was being taken down, and part of the contract price was a rebate for the scrap steel from the water tower after it was taken down. So under the contract, the demolition contractor had the ability to keep the water tower, sell it, and for the New York State Controller's Office said that you deduct that amount from the total amount being paid. So I think under that rationale, the NYSEG contribution comes off the total amount.
Great.
So you would, any offsets that are included would take it under the bidding threshold.
Excellent.
And they, and this isn't a grant type reimbursement. I mean, we do not have to pay the 70%.
Right.
The only part of it we have to pay is the 30.
And is this one, as far as the funding, I know Lime, we looked at, in another municipality, we looked at a Lime project where some of it was actually billed on your electric bill rather than, payments to the, I'm not sure.
Well, they offered us, actually,
Okay.
they offered us
Sorry.
0% or 24%
financed.
to
Right.
finance that,
Yeah,
if we wanted to.
so,
Sounds good.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I second it.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Sworja?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Now, the next thing I have is a generator approval for bid specs. There was a question. We actually chose an engineer based on 3 engineers who specifically dealt with generators, because one of the things we wanted to do with our heating system is also do a generator, so we could become a regional shelter. We actually borrowed extra money so that we could cover the cost of the generator. However, and one of the questions was if we did the first floor only, instead of doing the whole building. However, what would happen with that is that all of the electricity in the building would have to be redone, because
They're not on separate circuits or...
yeah, we'd have to separate every circuit in the building,
Right.
Yep, that's
which would be
no good.
No.
a cost. So what I would like to be able to do is, I mean, they gave us a propane generator potential cost. I mean, this hasn't gone out to bid yet. They have to go out to bid. And on a fuel oil generator, which including the service upgrade. Now, the service upgrade is for the electricity. We have limited service in the building that came with the building. So they are recommending that we do an electrical service upgrade when we do the generator. Now, for this building, what we're being told is that there isn't a propane generator big enough to handle this building, that we would have to do a fuel oil generator, and what that would have, it would have its own tank with the generator. So all I would like to do, and then I included both reports. So what I would like to do is to allow the engineers to go out to bid
For the fuel oil?
for the fuel generator.
And when you say we borrowed for this already, that was part of the bonding for the...
Yes, we have money left from the bond. It's not, depending, we'll have to see how much, how much the actual generator will be.
So we needed that electrical upgrade also for the kitchen, as I recall, that the kitchen was
Well, I think we need it for a lot of
undersized.
things, because
Yeah,
we're
we're running
always,
into it regularly.
yeah, we're, I mean, if we light the Christmas trees out in front, I mean, it blows a breaker. I mean, we have like 400 amps that come into the building.
One of the things with respect to the fuel oil generator, I think it'd be appropriate to adopt a resolution to go out to bid, but when I was town attorney in the town of Hyde Park, there was, I believe there were a number of different generators that were on state bid, and also because of the nature here and the procurement policies, there's federal bid specs for Department of Homeland Security and other things like that, which they make available to local municipalities to use. So there's a number of government contractors for emergency preparedness that have these generators on, bids already. So, you can always look at what you get come back in the bidding process. But one of the other options to save the New York State contract, I don't know if that was back in 2011, had what's called an OGS or less provision where if the generator that you're selecting is on a state bid, you can then solicit bids from other parties, and if they beat that bid, you go to the person who has the state bid. You can request them to match it. If they do not match the lower bid, you can then go to someone without going through preparing the whole competitive bid process. So I know that there was a lot of generators specifically that had the issue come up. So that was one option that saved us the time to going through the advertising process. So if you can have one model that's you have in mind, the easiest thing to do is see if it's on those bids, and then you can shop that.
See it on where? On the Homeland Security? You want to just email me the information?
Sure.
And then I'll forward it to them?
Because that...
Because,
it was, it's
Well, Victoria, what are we doing tonight? What do we have to do tonight with this thing?
We just have to authorize the engineer to go out to bid for this. But I'm going to get the information about where to go to bid. If there's specific places like the Homeland Security where we could get a better deal.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so I just wanted to, I just didn't want to tell them to go out to bid before, you knew what was going
Okay.
on.
That's fine.
And that streamlines the process somewhat, it's fairly quick.
Okay, well, we can talk about that.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you for the information.
It's just dumb luck.
Sounds like you. That's why you're here tonight. We're happy to have you here this evening.
I had to, in 2011, that was the last week, we had an over, we had some bid alternatives, deduct bid alternatives, because we had a certain budget, and we took it out of the bid that we awarded, and we were going to do it ourselves. And So I was the person who had to go find them. And
Yeah, we need to have a nice, long conversation.
so we had it was somebody over in, across the river in Wallkill or something, was this New York State supplier for Generac, and they had, they gave it to us at less than, they were the distributor, so everybody who had the state bid bought from them. So we got it at wholesale, and everybody else was selling it to the state at retail. So.
Sounds good to me. Okay, I have the water law recommendations from John Andrews. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to read them. Jim, have you?
No.
Okay. So what we can do is we can table this for now until you've had time to read them. And then maybe, I'd like to move forward and actually get the water laws in place. And Water District, possible sale of decommissioned wells 1, 2, and 3 property. I have a parcel access in here from the Water District. There is someone who's expressed some interest in purchasing this property. All of the pipes to the wells have been removed. But I wanted to get authority from you to do a title search. We would also look to see if there are any easements on the property. And if we're interested in possibly selling it, we would have to get some prices for appraisal. So
Just so, today I had an opportunity to look at, this is a landlocked parcel. The access to this parcel, if you look on this parcel access picture, right around where it says 200 there on the northern top side of the parcel, there's a driveway there that goes out to 343. I pulled the deed on that parcel from the Dutchess County Clerk's records.
Oh, good.
And there's no width listed of the right-of-way. It just says that the Water District has access to traverse over that to get access to the parcel. So because there's not a fixed width, it doesn't, I didn't see a reverter clause that says so long as it's not used for water purpose property that the easement is extinguished. However, it doesn't, specifically say it's a 25-foot right-of-way or anything like that. So that may affect the value of the property for getting access over that easement. But that's how the access was. And if you looked at, there was basically a turnaround in front of the pump station there, and that was the access in and out.
Yeah, there's an adjacent landowner who's interested in purchasing it.
Yeah, there's a commercial property to the south.
Right.
And this is zoned HM, and the property to the south is zoned HM.
Yeah, the only thing I was reading, I do take a class on the sale of municipal property, and I think there are certain things you have to follow when it's a special district.
Yes.
So when you, we sell this property, that those monies would have to go back into the special district, is that correct?
Yes.
So these would be monies that we could use for
Fixing
our
all the stuff
improvements.
that was
Yeah.
I'm always thinking.
But as far as a survey is concerned, if the town were to sell the property, wouldn't the buyer want to get a title report and everything, and they would be paying for title insurance?
Well, one of the things, for purposes of the title report, the big issue, the question with a piece like this, is typically, is there a reverter clause in the deed chain that says, if it's no longer used for water district property, does it go to somebody else?
Okay.
So that would affect the value. So that's primarily the reason why we would do a title search.
Okay.
It's not going to be, we're not looking for judgments or anything.
Yeah, it could be a right of reverter too when
Right.
when it is a municipality involved. You're right.
So that's the biggest concern.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, we'd have to do an appraisal to see what it was worth. Now, did you want us, one of the things Scott asked me is if you wanted him to get 3 prices for appraisal? Or to have an appraisal done on the property to see how much, we could get for it? Because one of the things that the comptroller's office is very stringent about is, the value of the property and what the town gets as.
Right.
Right, and we need a state-approved appraiser, don't we?
Yeah.
There's a list that
Well,
you
it's
have to choose
just a
from.
licensed, right? I mean,
I
appraisers
thought you needed
need
well, we bought land from a fire district and they needed a state-approved. There was a list of approved appraisers.
Oh, okay. I'll look at that issue.
It was a
And-
long list, but you do have to.
So basically, do you want to just pick a person, have him, pick a person off the list, approved list, and do the appraisal, or do we need prices, or? I mean, I imagine
think
they
at
would
this-
all be pretty much
I
the
think at this
same.
point in time, probably the thing to do would be to authorize the title search. When the title search comes back, we'll, put together, give the title search, and we'll maybe select an appraiser and solicit some prices. And then at that point in time, the board can, pick an appraiser.
Yeah.
Okay.
To do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
the most sense.
That makes sense, yeah.
So make a motion to authorize a title search on the Amenia Water District property for decommission wells 1, 2, and 3 property.
I'll second.
Councilman Smoji,
Yes.
Councilman Morris.
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Yes.
And Supervisor Brody.
Yes. I also have the information on moratorium on solar farms. I assume, Jim, you want a chance to mull this over?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Other matters? I have a transfer of funds. Where are we at, 18?
Yes.
Whereas the town board has the authority to transfer funds when necessary unanticipated to amend the budget, whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing expense line 31201.01.075, police and constables PS special events by $5,000, and decreasing expense line 16201.01, building PS by $5,000 to fund expense line for constable securing the Amenia Town Hall. Therefore, be it resolved, the town board authorizes a transfer of necessary budget lines to process the transactions.
Make that motion.
Second?
Can we have discussion?
Yep.
So we, at some point, I guess, decided that the town hall needed to be secured after the use. Is there, I'm not clear what the policy is, so I guess every time the building is used?
No, it's just...
In specific cases?
Yes, events mostly. And
So
after,
special
like
events?
and after the farmer's market.
And the farmer's market has not been doing a good job?
Well, I think we
locking
need
up?
to check to see. I don't think we can totally depend on, on everybody that uses the building to make sure it's secure. I mean, basically, we basically just check to see if the outside doors are locked and the alarm is set. But,
Just specific cases?
yeah, because Dutchess Community College has been absolutely wonderful. I mean, they make sure that everything's secure, the door,
So she takes care of that?
she takes care of that.
So I just understood from Dawn Marie that the constable comes in and locks it
There's
back.
3 of them. They're coming
A
in, they're
constable.
securing the building. They're also being utilized when there's an opening for events where there's individuals that don't have keys. I mean, sometimes it does feel like romper room here with the amount of meetings that are going on. I mean, it's crazy.
So who
And-
gives the authority to say this is an instance in which the constable should open up and
The
close?
supervisor and I have been working very closely about anytime there's something going on in the building to ensure that if she's not coming in, then one of them
Somebody
are
else.
coming in.
Okay.
But she's keeping great communications with them. In the past, we had an employee who was here every day, and that employee is no longer here. So somebody's picking up the slack that
Jim did.
that John did.
John.
So he helps set up the tables. When, there's an event going on, he'll set up tables, move the tables around. If there's any type of a setup, you pull them. A little bit of maintenance and picking up some slack that we just don't have that personnel. We don't have that one person do. You do have a cleaning crew who's here, who's taking that aspect of it. But in regards to the security as a whole of the building and every day reporting to the supervisor when doors are left open, whether it's upstairs because your staff members aren't closing them, when we're finding incidences here, reviewing the security tapes, we've had break-ins, windows are being left open. It's hard to sit there and
We haven't had break-ins. We had
the one
one.
break-in. You have alcohol and rubbish being left out back and
That's why we have the
everything that
curtains.
John used to do
That's
that we
what-
never talked about.
So we have an
But
additional,
this amount is for the end of from
Yeah.
now to the end of the year. I mean, this isn't,
that's what you think that we're going to need
yeah.
for these events.
Yeah.
But, we did put, we do have cameras. We have cameras outside, but we still need to make sure the building is secure. And we don't have that person here to do that, so.
I just wanted to make sure there was a clear time frame when it is or isn't needed, and if there's a way, if a group such as the farmers market isn't paying the cost of their, I appreciate having lots of events here and lots of use of the building, because to me, we already pay for the heat and the cooling of this building and the cleaning. As long as the people who are here don't leave it in a disaster so that we have enough new custodial. But if there's fees in addition that are coming out of the town's taxpayers' pocket, then it should be billed back to the group that in fact is utilizing them beyond.
Okay. Well,
So I
they
just
pay a
think
building
that-
fee, so. But
If
we
the group
do, we
is-
have a lot of events here. Not everybody pays.
So the Spanish group, for example, the classes that are meeting, if they are having somebody come in and open up and close and move tables around for them, we should be charging that back to them. They're getting a fee for
Nobody's
those.
moving any tables for them. There are tables set up in the back of the auditorium. They come in, they do their class, they leave, they lock up, and they
So
set the
there's no
code.
money.
Not that I
extra.
know of.
Okay, then I think we need to be clear so that we know where the cost centers are, and that if a group is consistently requiring custodial or help locking up, then that should be billed back to them.
Well, I don't see how you can do that. I
think
mean,
we could do
I
like a
don't think
first
so.
choice, first chance. They think they can lock up, they think they can leave the building as it was. If alarms go off and they didn't secure the building, then you charge them the fee. I'm sorry, it costs now $50 for somebody to come back.
Well, I
and
think
lock up.
that's ridiculous. I don't think we should be charging fee to people to use the building.
If
most-
they use services.
And really, and who's going to police that? Are you going to police it?
I think the person who gets the alarm that next time, if the constables come and answer the alarm, that $50, they get a free first choice, and the second time, and they don't get a second time. The first time they leave the thing unsecured, then they have to pay.
How many times,
One
could you come
time.
up here? I'm talking
Oh,
to
sorry.
Chris. Could you come up here, please? How many times have you had to come here because of the alarm? Rarely.
It's very rare for the
So
alarm.
it's not the alarm that you're helping
No,
with?
it's not the
No.
night, it's actually more that someone is locking up, that's happening a whole lot less. It used to be quite often, and it was more of a distraction because somebody didn't know somebody was upstairs when they were walking out the front door. And then by the time that class would be done, the alarm would go off. So as of now, it's very rare.
Let's move on. Can we?
I think we're debating the wrong thing. We probably just need a better building staffing and use
Plan.
plan. And if we took for granted the services that John was providing for a very long time, and now we have to find another way to do that, we can backfill that temporarily with the constable, but I think we just need to have a better system.
I agree. I think we need a system which in fact states when is the situation that we require
Okay, are you
constables and
going to
when we
do that?
don't.
Because I'm not.
I
I'm
think
Barry
somebody
right
needs
now.
to be authorized to do it. Is it Dawn Marie or is it Victoria Perotti? I don't know which one wants to take the lead, but one should make a clear decision. Is the Spanish group needing a constable or not?
No, I'm not talking about the constable. I think we should move forward with this and vote on that, because this is a reality of what we need. I'm just saying, in general, thinking about having either a building super or groundskeeper or someone in that role as a town position, so we don't have to ask the constable to do work that was previously done by someone whose job it was to do that. If that makes sense. Is that, I mean, I think you and I agree to a certain extent.
So I would just feel better knowing that there is a process for authorization.
I'll happily work on that with you, and we'll all have to do it together. I mean, I don't know the workings of this building as well as Victoria and Dawn Marie, so.
Okay, that sounds good.
Roll.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Simoji?
Yes.
And Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Okay, is there public comment? No. Town board comments?
Yes, I have I did want to, we talked about this a little bit on email, but I did want to make it clear that I was pretty disappointed with the fact that we were not able to get the tree cutting done. I am concerned that that puts the Trail to the Train project at unnecessary risk. I'm happy to help out in any way possible to make sure that we get an exemption or whatever it is that we need, but the question that I had for you, Victoria, is given that, does it make sense to bundle it into the larger contract?
That's where it was originally.
Understood, but given that we're late and we may not be able to do it until November, if we are granted an exception and they give us a small window, wouldn't we be better off being able to retain the tree cutter the town has on retainer already? Let's just say they come back and they say, all right, fine, you can do it, but you have to do it in the next 2 weeks.
Well,
And
I
now
think,
it's-
I think what we need to do is just wait and see what they say, and then move on from there.
Okay, and who's communicating with Fish and
Dan Breyer.
Dan?
So I would just add that I think time is of the essence, because I know when the bats come back, because our house has had a bat problem, there's a window of time, and they probably put it conservatively as March 30th. If we could get it done in the next week, because we have the documentation we have, I don't think we should just wait around and hope that Dan gets around to asking them, because
He isn't
each
waiting
day-
around he's already asked them.
And what has been their reply? We need to be on him every single day since March 30th. Otherwise, this just goes on and on and on. Every day, we should be, did you talk to them? What was the answer?
Well, he
I don't know
finally
what
got the,
answer is.
they have the
Insurance that they
The
have.
insurance company just took a very long time to get everything together.
Understood, but I think Vicky's concern is legitimate. I mean, you sent an email around on the 13th saying, Dan
Where
is
is
going to
this?
coordinate with our contractor to make sure that the insurance requirements are understood, and it's going to help shepherd. And then we didn't hear from Dan again until the 27th. And he's like, hey guys, we have 4 days left to do this. Is it going to happen? I'm like, where were you for the past 2 weeks?
Well,
It's not.
the person doing the tree cutting was in touch with MTA, with the person who gave us the entry permit.
Understood. I saw that exchange. I'm just saying, we are paying Dan to project manage this.
But I think we need somebody like Annette or somebody who's on staff who can call every single day and bug him until he gets an answer from U.S. Fish and Wildlife and see if we can get an okay in writing to cut these trees outside of the March 30th deadline. Because I think every day that goes by, the likelihood is going to be greater that it's not going to be granted.
I mean, just worst case scenario this for a second, if they don't let us cut until November, and then at that point, it's too late to do anything else, and then all of a sudden it's 2019, and we have to go ask for grant extensions again, because it could potentially be a disaster for that project.
I think it's worthwhile to ask somebody to phone call every day.
Sometimes when dealing with fish and wildlife, typically they allow you to cut in that window without a bat study or something like that.
We've already done that. We just need...
and if there is, they may be able to work with somewhat flexibility depending on, the trees to be cut. Usually, if you're going to cut within that window, you have to do certain additional steps that they require. But, it may vary because of the weather.
Well, we need to, it doesn't do us any good to sit here and,
right.
Talk about hypotheticals. We need to find out, and somebody needs to find out.
With respect to tree cutting, if you're going to rent an operator.
We have a contractor who got the bid.
Right. So,
And basically, most of the trees can be just dropped.
So
There's only one area where they actually have to be removed.
So that's a flat rate. It's not subject to competitive bidding because it's technically a lease of equipment with an operator. So
right.
You don't have to go out to bid. The bid that you got previously.
Super duper. All right.
So if you get approval, you can use that operator.
I am through with my comments.
I need to get authorization to have Victoria sign a contract with Arts Mid-Hudson for their grant, which slightly increased to $1,372 for Amenia's free performing arts program. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I need to read it. It is simply that we agree to report promptly on the status of the event. It's going to be taking place within their window, which is March 1st to December 31st, 2018. We will recognize them in everything we do. We will prominently credit Assistance by Arts Mid-Hudson as the administrator, and that we will do everything that they have asked us to do that is subject to the grant. I'll make a motion that we authorize Victoria to sign the Arts Decentralization Grant Agreement, Project Arts Learning / Individual Artists Grant paperwork, and to sign the disbursement form as well.
Second. And congrats.
Thanks.
There we go. Councilwoman Smoji, Councilman Morris.
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Yes.
Councilman Doyle.
Yes.
And Supervisor Brody.
Yes. And the other, there was something else in other matters. Was the noise. And there is in your packet comments from Mike Seggleton, Code Enforcement Officer, and also there were no comments from the Planning Board or Zoning Board of Appeals. So do you want to just take that and think about it and discuss it on the 19th meeting? What do you want to do with that?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay?
I make a motion that we do that.
You don't have
Oh, I don't have to? Okay, good, then I second myself and...
And you're going to vote for yourself, too?
Okay, make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
The town clerk will remain for the first part of the executive session.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the
Any opposed? It is 9:05.